Now, this is a bit different question, not directly related to your works. So, what do you think about Marxism or the post-Marxist ideology?
Um, I think it is related to my works in many ways. In my 2005 book, um, Millennium Dawn, I have a chapter on Marx, and since that time, I've in my 2010 book, Triumph of Civilization, I have a section on critical social theory, and what I think Marx hit the nail on the head in many ways, not in his prediction of capitalism or whatever, and certainly not in the idea that the proletariat's going to rise up and create a decent world order. Those things have not happened, and he was not correct about that. But he was correct that the essence of capitalism is exploitation, that people who have capital use that capital to hire people, and they make a profit off of their labor. Today, in the globalized world that we live in, whole nations in their corporations invest in the third world. They invest in places like India. They invest in places like Africa, like Indonesia, because the labor is cheap and they can maximize their rate of return from that labor. And he hit the nail on the head there. And also, he understood ultimately that if you have this kind of economic system and you don't have an economic system predicated on human respect and human dignity, but rather on the accumulation of private profit, what will happen is that you will end up commodifying everything. The air that people breathe, the water that people drink, every human need the health care they need, everything will be commodified. That means it will be economically there for someone to make a profit off of that need. And he was right about that. The process of commodification has corrupted all of civilization. So we have human slavery still going on, human trafficking is going on, human exploitation is all over the world. Perhaps 500 million people who work in sweatshops and so on around the world. Maximum, they're treated as human fodder, just to be used up and thrown away. And if we're going to have a decent civilization, as I argue in my works, when I talk about the need for unity and diversity, the need for universalizing ourselves, the need for holism, the need for developing our reason and our love, all these themes come out of those neo-Marxist insights, which show that the present world system is a disaster for human beings. It's not moving civilization forward. As is very evident now to people all over the world, it's eating up the environment, because the environment itself, the forests are commodities. For the capitalists, there's no benefit for a forest but to cut it down and make money off of it, or mine its minerals and so on. And everything is a commodity. And that means that the global environment, this delicate ecosystem, planetary biosphere that they talk about, is rapidly being eaten away, literally eaten away and disintegrated by the capitalist juggernaut. It's got to be changed. We've got to, if we want to survive on this planet, we have to develop a sustainable economics. And a sustainable economics is not an economics of greed, private accumulation of wealth. It doesn't mean it isn't a market society. It could be very well a market society, but it has to be an economics predicated on human dignity and what we need as human beings, all of us need, and not the vast accumulations of wealth by a tiny few, which gives them power over the rest of us, right? Power to engineer elections, power to create military industrial complexes and go to war against their enemies and so on. This system of power is what the economy is, it's what the nation state system is. We have to trade in this obsession with power for a civilization, an economy, and a political system of respect, mutual concern, dialogue directed toward mutual understanding, love, compassion, and justice. And those are
So,
real things.
so in one of the books, I think it's The Holy Family, Marx and Engels argue that even the ruling class is deluded by the system they are trying to create. And so,
Right.
don't you think that today the individuals who wants to move against a system ultimately finds themselves as a part of that same system? Like, what if the system needs opposition to grow?
Um, it depends on how you define opposition, right? There's different kinds of opposition. Uh, uh, if we had a sustainable economics, Herman E. Daly, great economist of economics, Kate Raworth, who came out much more recently with a wonderful book on economics and so on, sustainable economics. If it does, we're always going to be uh, struggling for a better world, right? We're always going to have difficulties. So, human life is very complex and so on. And if we had a world where there was dialogue toward mutual understanding, it doesn't mean there wouldn't be conflict. It doesn't mean that people wouldn't be critically evaluating the way this program works or that program works. We need that. And that's wonderful. There's no such thing as a perfect utopia that is going to solve all our problems. But I do argue that we need to be thinking in terms of a practical utopia that will solve our most fundamental delusions, right? With the sovereign nation state, with its militarized weapons, nuclear weapons, and so on, is a delusion. It's not a reality. It's a common fantasy that people have around the world, most people. And the economic system that says, oh, this is free enterprise. It's not free enterprise at all. It's exploitation, it's domination, it's destructive of democracy, destructive of human rights and dignity. We need to liberate ourselves from those things. And it doesn't mean that critical thought will go away. Of course not. We're human beings. We think critically. And that's why you're asking these questions. You're thinking critically, which is a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. But unless we solve our most fundamental problems, Einstein said, you cannot solve your problems on the same level that created the problems. Right? Our problems are created by capitalism. It's destroying the environment. Our war, our threat of nuclear war, which will wipe out all humanity, was created by the nation state. You can't solve those problems with more capitalism or more nation state sovereignty, right? You've got to move to a higher level of understanding, of integration, of holism. Unless you do that, there isn't much hope.